Hey, I am fired up because today I have a special guest and a special friend of mine, Mr. David Young, who is the host of the Eagle Scout podcast or show.
Eagle Scout show,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited to have David on because David is a family man, a godly man, and a funny man. And at least you always make
Well, the
me laugh.
cameras are on, so we've established funny. I like that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, David, why don't you, just for the audience, give our folks a bit of a rundown on your background?
Sure. My name's David Young. I live in Argyle, Texas. I am extremely happily married, or at least I was when I left the house this morning. Things changed dramatically. I have two awesome kids who are adults. My oldest turned 27 yesterday, which I'm still kind of trying to reconcile in my head. That's Emily, and then Jack is 22 years old. Amy, my wife, just retired from teaching school and is absolutely amazing and puts up with a lot, as your audience will probably understand.
Come to learn.
Forward. Yes. They'll be like, she's a saint. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I host this crazy podcast. I have I sell cybersecurity equipment for a company called Fortinet, and love my customers, love the interaction with the people. That part of it gets me going. I love selling things. I don't talk in my sleep. Otherwise, my mouth is pretty much running. Nonstop. So that's kind of where I am. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you've got a show called Eagle Scout. You just got a thing for them, or were you actually an Eagle Scout?
No, I was an Eagle Scout. My dad was an Eagle Scout. My dad is crazy. Good crazy, but just kind of across the spectrum of crazy. He's crazy. He's 88, and he was super hyper involved in scouting, and he's an Eagle Scout. Then I, of course, went through the program. He was a big part of that. And then my son Jack is also an Eagle Scout. So we have
very cool.
3 generations of Eagle Scout. And I'm super passionate about it. You want to limit my my ability to discuss that, because I will fill hard drives.
You'll chat it up.
Yes.
You
absolutely.
know, I'm actually just going to lean right into this because we were talking earlier. I'm not sure that scouting has a good rap across the board.
Well, scouting struggled dramatically, and the thing that frustrated me, and the reason that I started the Eagle Scout show, is very simply they have not shown they've not defended themselves. And the analogy I use is that they got in their foxhole, they put their helmet on, they got as low as they could, and they're just waiting for it to be over. And they're kind of through that process. The bankruptcy and all that has already, they've kind of gone through all that.
Yeah.
It's created a lot of messes, but basically they don't get any good press, or very little good press. The negative press is very sensational. The issues that they have had in the past, most of these issues were 45, 50 years ago. They've gotten better. They have a very stringent program in place doing background checks and training for adults. I just recently went through that training again. You have to go through every year. It is very comprehensive and super creepy, because I think that those types of crimes that they talk about are crimes of opportunity, and they're absolutely not. And so it requires these different layers of protection to keep that from happening. And it happens in every organization where youth are involved. It happens in the public schools, unfortunately. It happens in every church organization. Obviously, the Catholic Church has strong issues with that, but it happens in every one. And I just got tired of all of the good things that scouting does getting painted with that brush, because it's not fair, and they have taken such a physical hit from that in terms of numbers and staff and all those types of things, that they just don't come out and swing and say, hey, look, we're on top of this.
Enough.
Yeah, enough. We're getting after it. Scouting is alive and well. It's very strong. It's getting stronger. It is, and I've said this 1,000 times, it is the greatest leadership program for youth in the world today. And I will debate that with any human being on any program. And I have yet to be challenged on that, with one exception. I was at a podcast convention, and I'm missing a key fact here, but I talked to a gentleman. You're at a podcast convention, and it's, hey, what's your podcast about? Well, it's about left-handed squirrels. We talk about and to left-handed squirrels. It's very interesting. So, it's very niche-y and whatever. Right. And mine is super niche-y. And the guy was like, oh yeah, my kid was in this other program, and I don't remember what it was. I honestly don't. And he's like, yeah, it was a great program, and it was faith-based and all this. And I was like, well, that's awesome. And he goes, well, it's not as good as scouting. It's not near as good as scouting, but like, scouting's available, right? I mean, they didn't close.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but overall, I
so
really
that is the
believe
message here. Scouting is open.
Yeah,
right?
We're open for business.
Yeah.
And the things that it did for me, and especially as a parent looking at my kid, I think were just insane. And it's hard to quantify unless you've been through it.
Mm.
But
what do you mean we're insane? When
it teach the leadership part of it is very gradual. It's not we're on a whiteboard. This is what leadership is, and this is step 1 and step 2. Scouting by design puts your kid in these situations. Kid now, it's not son, it's kid. Mm-hmm. In these situations where they lead people. Like they actively lead people. It's not
we're going to throw you into a situation.
Yeah, and we're going to support you. And good scout troops are led by the kids by design.
Yeah.
The adults are there to keep them in bounds, keep them out of trouble, but the kids lead it. And for me, I've always said it's a safe place to make a mistake.
Yeah,
you can't make mistakes in competitive school districts anymore, because you make a mistake and now you're not in the top 10, you're in the top 20 or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's so wrong.
Yeah, but in scouting, you're going to eat some cold chicken on a camp out, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
But it's cold chicken.
Yeah.
It's not what we wanted.
Yeah, it's not. That wasn't the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so those types of experiences, and then, Jack was in from about, in this Boy Scout program from about 11 or 12 years old until he was right up till he was 18. And it was such a gradual thing that he didn't see it as it was happening. But then when he was kind of on the upside, and he also matured obviously a lot from, he's an adult man when he gets out, and then he could see, I really learned a lot. And you deal with different people. Like kids have to learn to deal with different groups, like the kids in his youth group and the kids in scouting and the kids at school and the kids in sports teams. Those are all different groups.
Yeah.
They operate differently. They have kind of different rules, different dynamics. And so exposing him to that, I think, helped dramatically too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
How would, talk to a lot of dads, so they're listening right now. What's the proper age to get started in this kind of thing?
Scouting. So the scouting program starts in first grade, Cub Scouts, or maybe kindergarten now. And Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts are very different, and that can be a problem for Scouts, because Cub Scouting is all about family, because primarily the age group. And it's all family activities, family camping, all that. And as your kid goes...
So that's like the Derby and all that stuff?
The Pinewood Derby.
The Pinewood Derby. Did that.
Here's my Pinewood Derby plug. It's not about winning races. It's about building cars.
That's the
dads
project.
Miss out on that.
Yeah.
Some dads, not all, but some think it's about winning races. It's not at all. It's about building cars. And if the car gets to the end of the track, that's a bonus.
That's a winner.
That's a huge bonus. Yes.
Yeah.
But Pinewood Derby, all those things, it's all family. And then your kid gets to 4th, 5th grade, right in there, and it's the Webelos program, which is designed to go as a bridge between the two.
That's where I got punted. I didn't make it to Webelos.
A lot of kids.
I was a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And I got in a fight with the den mother's son, and then that was the end of my
really?
career. Yes,
Nice.
it's a true story.
I think I probably heard.
I got in
that
a lot
story.
of
I didn't know you
fights.
were that guy.
Yeah, I was that guy.
You're throwing hands at Cub Scouts.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. So
Weeblos.
So you go through Weeblos, and that's kind of a bridging program to a degree. And then the problem that I see consistently is the kids think that Boy Scouts is like Cub Scouts, and they're like, "Man, I'm too old for this. I'm getting a little older."
So they think
here.
it's
And so they don't want to do it. And so, but you get into the scouting program is completely different. The kids lead everything. They have officers. They have senior patrol leader runs everything. That's a kid. They're all kids. They decide what they do, where they go, how they do it, all that. The parents facilitate that, and they're like, we want to go camping and we want to go here. Well, the parents do all the logistics of making that happen.
Yeah.
But the kids do everything up and into, including buying all the groceries and feeding each other and all those things. And so it is very much more of an independent experience with the kid. The parents involved, and I do love the fact I have a lot of conversations with parents about scouting, and I talk to them about, because in Texas, every 7th grade boy in Texas is a quarterback. They are. Everyone.
Yeah.
And my kid probably was too. Every kid's, you're like, I really think he's going to play quarterback for the high school, probably get a scholarship. Thinking probably Stanford or maybe Alabama. I don't know. And that's 7th grade, right?
Yeah.
So then they get to 8th or 9th grade, and this is Texas. Fill in the blank with whatever activity. They get a little bit older, and they realize, that's not my deal, and they think it's too late to go to scouting, and it's absolutely not. They can do both. They can absolutely do athletics and scouting. It's very important that they do a lot of things. I tell people I don't want scouting to be your number one priority. It should absolutely not be your number one priority. It should be on your list. But if that's your number one thing, then I want to talk about some other stuff. I want to talk about God. I want to talk about family and those sorts of things. But that being said, sports, and you can coach sports, and I understand that dynamic too. And I coached poorly several sports. There's stories there that were horrible. But you're primarily watching your child participate in this activity. You're probably helping the referees a little bit, I would think. You probably, getting in their ear and talking to them, just letting them know that maybe they've made a mistake.
Gently.
Just gently suggesting stuff about their parents or, particularly their mother.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, right?
Right.
But in scouting, you're spectating, but you're also there. Like you're shoulder to shoulder on a lot of those activities. And it's just a very different experience. And I'm a proponent of that. I think it's amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what made me think of this, but it's just the way my brain works. So, what about ROTC and scouting? Do they interrelate? Are they completely different? How
do? So scouting has a little bit of a military feel to it to a lot of people because of primarily the uniforms and the structure of it. It's designed in patrols and troops. It has kind of that, and they're outside and they're intense.
Yeah.
No guns. But there is that piece of it. I will tell you, my limited experience with ROTC is I was a student at Texas A&M for a while. I struggled finding the classrooms. Campus was super big, and so I had a hard time with that part.
Yeah.
The bars had light up signs on the front.
Right. It
which
was
made
easy.
it so much easier.
I can walk right in here.
There's some opportunity there. But anyway, that being said, I know that if you get your Eagle Scout, there are scholarship opportunities in the Corps of Cadets, which is their ROTC program, and you wear your Eagle Scout badge on your ROTC uniform at Texas A&M.
Okay.
There are, I want to say it's Boeing, that you're guaranteed a job interview there if you have an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Interesting. We talked, what's Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Weeblos, or
Cub Scouts, Weeblos, Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts, okay. And then the Eagle Scout is like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, so the Eagle Scout, and the other thing I'll say is the only reason that I have a podcast called The Eagle Scout Show and that I focus on Eagle Scouts is because the familiarity with people that aren't involved in scouting, they all know or have heard about an Eagle Scout. And there's a certain honor there, and people respect that. You know, I'm 56 years old, and I still put it on my resume, and we still talk about it. People
Interesting.
still talk about it.
Yeah. So it's got street cred.
It's got street cred. I tell parents, you know, talking back to the football reference, if I told you I played high school football, would you be impressed? And they're like, no, not really. I said, what if I told you I was an Eagle Scout? And they're like, oh, that's kind of impressive. That's kind of, all right, then why are we going to 9 football practices a week and we can't make it to Scouts one night a week?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. But anyway, so.
You know, it sounds like it's teaching a responsibility. That's a piece of it.
One of the things that changed my son, Jack, the most dramatic change I saw in a very short period of time was the first time he went to Boy Scout summer camp. So he's 11 years old. He's out the other side of Bridgeport, Texas. Somehow that area is closer to the sun than anywhere else that I've ever been. It's 300 degrees. They're living in canvas tents. I bought him a cheap Casio watch, strapped it on his arm, and I was like, you're going to have these classes that you have to go to, and they happen at these times, and you know how long it takes to get from where you are to there. Go. And he had to grow up a lot.
Right.
And he's away from home, and there's a lot of homesick. A lot of the boys get homesick, and they cry, and they struggle, and then they kind of work through it. And so that changed him dramatically. He came home with a confidence that he didn't have when he left the house.
That's cool.
In that 1 week period. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of being put in situations that are safe, but that you're not familiar with. And you have to work through, do a little problem solving.
Right.
And you got to kind of take care of yourself and that sort of thing. But the Eagle Scout is the top rank that you can receive in scouting. And it is a process that takes several years to get through, and it culminates with a project that kind of shows off everything that you've learned. Everybody hears about the Eagle Scout project. But I tell the same stories over and over again. We had a kid in our scout troop who, there are these different ranks that you get to advance to get to Eagle Scout, right? Scout, tenderfoot, second class, all the way through. There's 5 or 6 of them. This young man never got one of those, not one. He went to every summer camp. He got a bunch of merit badges. He was at every meeting. He had no interest in the program, like the advancement piece of it. And I would argue with you that he got more out of the program than some of the kids that went through and got their Eagle Scout. He got more. You could just see that kid absorbing that stuff. And he participated in everything, and he had leadership roles, and he did all this stuff. He didn't care anything about getting initials in a book and getting recognized for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool. Yeah, I was thinking about, giving our kids responsibilities at a young age. I was watching this video, and it really struck me. The guy's kind of a hard charge, and he looked like an MMA fighter. I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, dear.
It's a great, and he's just hardcore. And he's interviewing this guy, and he's like, you've got a 6-year-old. And he's like, have you trained him to get ready for school and get out the door on his own yet? And he's like, no, he can't do that. And he said, so why are you holding him back?
Yeah.
The guy's like, well, I don't, well, he's just not ready for it yet. I'm not holding him back. And he said, yeah, you are. And he's like, yeah, well, I haven't really thought about it that way, right?
Yeah.
And what he was saying is, even at age of 6, you should be able to train your child to get ready and let you know that he's ready for school rather than chasing him around, which is what we do, right? It's like, and I was watching that, I'm like, that's really good. Because I think we tend to do stuff for our kids that they can do on their own. I was having a conversation literally yesterday at the elementary school where our grandson goes. I know the principal there. She's an amazing woman. And she's taking 120 kids to Cece's Pizza.
Jeez,
and and they do it in sets of 40, right? Yeah, so I think it was 160 kids.
That's manageable.
4 sets of 40, 160 kids going to Cece's Pizza.
Yeah.
And they get the moms and dads that are there volunteering, and the kids come in, And she said, and all of a sudden I see the parents like trying to help the kids. And these are kindergarten through 5th grade, kindergartners.
Yeah.
And she said, stop it. Do not help them.
Yeah.
They will get their own food. They will get their own plate. Don't cut their food. Like, they can do this.
Yeah.
And we show them how to do it. And then they help each other so that the 5th graders are helping the kindergartners, right? And that's giving the 5th graders responsibility. It's giving the kindergartners responsibility. It's like in our effort to help, I think as parents, a lot of times we're actually taking away the opportunity for them to learn and grow.
You are 1,000% correct. I'll tell you on my experience. So I told you that Amy, my wife, taught school forever. So school teachers see the results of that, right? Mm-hmm. They see what happens when parents do everything for their kids, and then they have to deal with that all day. And so at my house, there wasn't a lot of that. My kids, I wouldn't say they had an easy childhood, but they were more self-sufficient than most of their peers because Amy's not having it. And if Amy's not having it, it ain't happening. It's right. Just how it is. She did such an amazing job with them and just so good at it. And I just tried to follow her on a lot of the blocking and tackling. And she had a rule that if I said something was going to happen, it had to happen with the kids. And I don't know how many times, but probably 3 or 4 times that I said, if you don't X, we're not going to Y.
Oh, man.
Right?
I just hung myself.
And I want a Y. Right. I wanted to go to that.
Right.
And the kid's like, I ain't doing it. And you're like, all right, we're not. I mean,
we're not going to the ball game.
Yeah, it's over. I got to put the glove away. Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst. You got to pick those consequences very carefully. How many times we screw ourselves, right?
I remember her getting in Jack's face. Not bad, but getting down on his level. He's 3 or 4 years old, and he was trying to kind of take charge of the universe. And she said, Jack, here's the deal. It's going to go my way. I'm going to win every time. And how we get there is up to you. Do it however you want. But at the end, I'm going to win, period. Yeah. And got his attention pretty quickly. But, yeah, that I have to tell one more quick story because I don't think this is true. I don't know where the camera is. I don't think this is a true story, but it's a good story. My daughter called me a few years ago, so she's 23, 24 years old, and she had dropped her roommate off at the airport. And she said, she called me and she said, Dad, I just want to thank you for making me do stuff when I was a kid. And I was like, well, I don't know how to record on my cell phone, but yeah, let's do that. Okay. Yeah. I did something right. Let's do that. And she said, you dropped me off at the airport and told me this place is designed for people who, with a 2nd grade education and English is a second language, you'll figure it out.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I don't think that's true. And she said, Dad, I was 13 years old.
That's exactly what I said. Oh, my gosh.
I don't think that's true. And I don't know what the statute of limitations is on child abuse, but.
How old is she now? Oh, yeah. She's
27.
27. All right. Well, hey, she made it.
She got through, but. There's a lot of that at my house.
I think, it's, it's encouraging them. You just reminded me of a story of something I did at Christmas. It was this is going to take a second. So it was Christmas. Kids are older now, and it's like the older kids. We have 6 kids, so the older kids like Santa's not real.
Yeah.
Younger kids are believing.
Yeah.
The middle kids are like, I'm not sure. I don't want to screw it up because gifts show up. So
you must believe to receive.
I don't want to mess this thing up, right? So I told the kids, all right, we're going to find out once and for all whether Santa's real or not. Meet me at home 6 p.m. and I will pick you guys up. I coordinated it with my wife. So we had a 15-passenger van. I get home from work. We pile in the van, and they're like, where are we going? I said, we're going to go figure out whether Santa's real or not. And so like, well, where are we going? Where are we going?
Yeah.
And I was like, you'll see. And so then the older ones, we're going to some stupid Santa thing at the mall, aren't we? I know it. This is what we're going to do. And so we get, I take them over to Target, the super Target over here.
Yeah.
And I said, what family do you know that if there was a Santa would need Santa to show up? And everyone said the same family.
Yeah.
Really tough situation. And dad's in prison. Grandma's basically taking care of things.
Yeah.
And mother's troubled. It's a bad situation. And it was literally across the street from us.
Yeah.
And so we all knew it. And so I gave each of the kids money. And I said, go find, there's two little boys that live in that house.
Yeah.
Go get some toys. Whatever you think they would like.
Yeah.
Go get it. So they went and got it. And what reminded me was, I said, I'll wait in the car.
There you go.
I'm letting 6 kids loose in a super Target with cash.
Yes.
And they're running around. I'm like, I can't just sit in the car. My wife would not be happy with this. So I snuck around and I'm hiding out in the Starbucks.
Yeah.
Watching what's going on. They had to check out. They had to figure everything out. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
And they came back. And they did.
Yeah.
They got through the shopping experience. So it was really cool. So then we've got the stuff. We come back home. I said, all right, let's wrap these. So we wrapped all the gifts. Mom helped wrap the gifts.
Yeah.
Then I told all the kids, go get dark clothes on.
There we
They're
go.
like, what are we doing? I said, just go get some dark clothes on. So everybody gets dressed up in dark. And we have the gifts. And so we sneak out of the house. We're hiding behind the bushes.
Yes.
And I tell the older kids, go knock on the door, leave the bag at the door, and hustle back here as quick as you can. And if you guys say a word, you're grounded. That's it.
Yeah. I got 6 of you. Getting rid of one ain't gonna hurt me.
You don't say a word.
Right.
And we dropped off the gifts, knocked on the door, lights up. We're hiding in the bushes. They come out, looking around. Gifts go back. We get back home. That was so cool, Dad.
Yeah.
I said, congratulations. Santa's real.
Yeah.
It's the spirit of Christmas. You executed well. Good work.
That's what my wife always told my kids when you cross that bridge.
Yeah.
She said, the spirit.
That's
It's
it.
the spirit.
It's the spirit.
Which it's very godly to me. Yeah.
So that's why I call this podcast God Written Goals, because to me these are like the 3 pillars of being a dad, right? It's really life, but as a dad, it's like suddenly, oh, you're having a kid, you're now a dad. You didn't have to go through years of scout training to reach this pinnacle of fatherhood. You just are one because you did something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, God is like, you have to decide as a man, I'm either at the top of the heap or something else is at the top of the heap. Right. And then what is that? So there's a greater good than what I am able to see, perform, do. Right. And that you need a framework, you need a mentor, you need guidance, you need all of these things. And you may have been raised, you were raised by an Eagle Scout dad.
Yeah.
I had a cop dad and a professor dad.
Yeah.
Like he did both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crazy. And intellectual and would shoot you. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, but that's just fundamental decision there.
Right.
That there is a God. And if there is a God, then how am I going to relate to him? Right. And then grit, like life is hard. You've got to,
If you're doing it right, it is.
you got to fight through it, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I always say marriage for us, fortunately, has been easy. Life is hard.
Right.
Pick someone that you're going to go through life with.
Yeah.
Because you're always changing. And so that grit is just so important. And then goals, for me, the goals are like the in-between steps. How am I going to get better? What do I need to focus on, right?
Right.
And I always say, it's great to have a 5-year plan, but for me, it's like 5-year plan. Well, I can get started on that in like 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really affect what I'm doing tomorrow.
When's it due?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When's it due? Perfect. So what I've learned to do in my life is set ridiculously low goals where I'm literally disgusted with myself if I don't get this done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't get up and do 1 sit-up and 1 push-up tomorrow? Like, seriously, you're not going to do it?
I don't want to talk about that.
Right. Yeah.
Now I'm uncomfortable.
But that's what propels us forward, right? And so we've got to have an aim.
Yep.
Right? And so working through that and consistently setting goals. So for you as a dad, how does God, grit, and goals, like anything I just said, what does that kind of come forward with for you?
So the God piece, I've actually, it's so fun. The whole process is fun. I hope 66 is as fun as 56, because I told my kids, you got a lot of living between where you are now and where I am. 56 doesn't suck at all.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But your goals change, and you get some clarity that you didn't have before. You got a lot more time on your hands. You're not putting fires out like you were. Your horizons, I think, broaden a little bit. You talk about having a 5-year plan. I can remember when my kids were little, I'm trying to get to Thursday. Like, if I can just get to Thursday,
right.
I think we can survive this thing.
Yeah.
For me, God represents so many things on so many levels. But one thing that it does, and people seek in so many different areas, is hope. And there's so many different ways that people sell hope. Like, there's so many opportunities out there where you see people just need some hope. They just need, and you see, like, you and I have had conversations about like online courses to get a business going and things like that. And so many times people buy the course and never do the course, but that hopeful feeling, you know what I mean?
Right. I feel like I'm making progress towards
the lottery
something.
makes its living on hope and all those things. And I think on a very basic level, you have to have something like that you can believe in. And then you start to see real evidence of God in your everyday life, and you have some perspective and some time to recognize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, God's working miracles all around you, but if you got a 3-year-old, you might miss all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Your miracle might be that Jack didn't dive off the kitchen table when you walked in from work and he's standing on it.
Yeah.
So for that, and then of course you see, you've been through most of the maze, part of the maze, and you look back and you see your kids struggling with some of the same turns you did, and you want to help them, but you want them to have their own experience. And, you go through your 20s and maybe you're not at church every week. And one of the conversations I had recently with Emily, I think she went through a period of time where she got upset with the people that run the church.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, not a specific instance or whatever, just a little bit of how the sausage was made kind of a vibe, and
right.
she just, right. And my message to her was, don't let people's mistakes chase you away from God, because God's there.
That's good.
And people's mistakes will chase you away from that. Our church just recently.
I'm going to give you a little applause on that one.
I'm getting that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Say that again, because it was good.
Don't let people's mistakes chase you away from God.
Yeah.
Because it'll happen. I'll go to the Methodist church here in Argyle, and our pastor recently was let go. Everybody's got an opinion on it. I believe that he was canceled. It's the times that we live in. It was unfortunate. I really like him personally, and I feel bad that it happened. But that doesn't, you can't let that change the way you feel about God. We get so caught up in, and one of my friends said, well, we're going to go find a new church. I was like, that is amazing. Because here's what you need to do. Find a church that is not run by flawed people and call me immediately because I'm down. Right?
Yeah. Give me the perfect church.
But that's the deal is we're all trying to figure it out. So the God piece is it's just an overarching thing that you're just striving to get better all the time. And you have something there that represents what that can look like.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool. So the God piece and look at the people that you get surrounded with, right? If you're involved in a church or whatever that looks like, in a men's group or whatever, hopefully you're around a bunch of people that are trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of people that you want to be around. Men, I'm in a men's group. I was telling my men's group this week, and you and I have been in groups together.
Yep.
And not court ordered, just like
regular men's
volunteer
groups.
men's groups. Yeah. And I was telling them, men don't have friends. That's a tough part about being a dad too. Is I think that I believe that God does all these things to bring people together, and you can see it everywhere. And people that have community are happy and successful. People that get isolated get in trouble.
That's Satan's move.
Yeah.
I'm always.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. Yeah.
Like people that shoot schools up, it's never like, oh, he and all his friends were hanging out and he decided to shoot a school up. No.
Right. Oh.
So,
I'm sitting at home.
Yeah.
With a bag of Cheetos and firearms.
Yeah. And I'm making bad choices because there's nobody around to tell me that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And there's no hope. We're back to hope, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've gone off on a tangent and I apologize, but,
that's all right.
But yeah, men don't have friends. I went to a funeral last weekend for a friend of mine that passed away in an accident. It was terrible. And I saw people I hadn't seen in 40 plus years.
Oh, wow.
30 plus, probably 30, 40 years. And I had conversations with people at kind of the reception, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's telling me some really intimate details about his parents' current situation, and they're in a assisted living, Alzheimer's type situation. And the whole time I'm like, I've never talked to you in my life. Like, why are you
telling me
having
all
this
this
conversation?
Yeah.
And it's because men don't make those connections.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's so good. And yeah, I've been part of men's groups for probably close to 20 years now.
Yeah.
And those are your go-to guys. I heard somebody say once, they were telling me, well, that's good for people that need it. I said, if you don't do it when you don't need it, they won't be there when you do need it.
100%.
Right? It's yeah.
I found the button.
Yeah, you found the button. There you go. Yeah, that's it. And you'll meet some amazing people along the way, right?
Sometimes you don't know what you need.
Yeah.
So
I think men, if you've married well, you've got a solid relationship there. But women are confusing.
Oh,
we need other men to go, yeah, they're confusing.
Yeah.
But then certain guys have tried certain things, and you're like, oh, did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I could try that. Right?
Yeah. We've got a men's group that I attend, and the age range is we probably got some guys there in their early 40s on up to in their 60s, and we kind of go around the room and check in, and this guy's in his early 40s, and like, hey, I don't know, I may have to go to the doctor. I don't know what's going on, but I just can't sleep. Everybody in the room just kind of looks at each other and like, are you going to tell him? You go to the doctor, buddy. That's what's going to happen.
That's what happens. Yeah, that's funny.
So,
all right.
So God-wise, grit-wise, that's the point. That's the whole, like, if you're not pushing and grinding and getting better, I think for me, it gets boring and pointless. And I'm like, Amy tells me that I collect smart people. you're in my collection. I collect smart people. I love to have conversations with smart people. I love to learn things. I'm constantly reading, learning, doing. I want my kids to have similar drive because I think that there's so much out there that if you're not, you just miss out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, life is hard if you're doing it right.
Yeah. That's where the adventure is.
Yeah, that's
right?
where it all is.
I was sharing with one of my sons the other day that all opportunity exists in problem.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that. Find the problems.
Yeah.
We don't complain about them. All the opportunity is in there.
Yeah.
Right? So if work's not going well and there's problems, like, who's going to solve them? You solve them,
Right.
you get recognized.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a challenge of doing that, and there's satisfaction in getting it done. I tell my kids all the time, I tell them so many things all the time. I feel, as we enunciate that, I feel bad about it, but not bad enough to quit. I tell them comfort is your enemy. Comfort is your enemy nonstop.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, it's not good.
That's funny. When things were going well for me, financially, business, everything was going good. And I had this thought that I don't need to work that hard. I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
This is good. And I need to show my kids that I've got time. Things are good.
Right.
All of that. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden, everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
Right. My relationship got so much better when everything went to hell in a handbasket than it was actually when everything was good. It's like, well, what am I teaching my kids? That life is easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny thing happens when you have means, and I know some of our listeners are doing well.
Sure.
And so you have to be that. You have to be the maker of the bounds. It's like, should we be buying our child a Ferrari for their 15th birthday this year?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, maybe
Not a new one.
not a new one, right? It's like,
yeah.
But when you're struggling, so you've got to create that boundary.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is. So it might be a used pickup truck, or it might be a Ferrari. But whatever it is, you're saying, I'm only gonna help you this far.
Right.
It's up to you to go beyond that. And so we have to figure out where that is. When you have nothing, there's no figuring that out. It's like we can't do anything, and so if you want to do something, like, let's get creative, let's pray, right.
Yeah. You move to the limits of your options to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah. And having gone through that, is like that brought our family much closer together.
Yeah.
Right. Because suddenly I'm on the same side of the table as they're. Like, let's figure it out.
Right.
Right.
So, and then the results are owned by everyone, and they become more special, which is awesome. So we live in Argyle, Texas. Argyle is, for the most part, very affluent. There's some monster houses out there on a bunch of dirt.
Yeah.
It's a big old
bunch
place.
of dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. So our house is very small. It's 1,800 square feet. Our kids grew up on top of each other. I mean, you have 6 kids, so wherever you lived,
they're on
a
top
small
of each
house.
other.
Yeah. There's no, we went man-to-man defense, and they were like, I don't want to play zone. We'll just play man. And you're just like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
They'll figure it out. We'll recruit some more. But yeah, I think that was a huge plus for us with our kids, because of that we were there, and we, I've done so many different types of jobs, and at one point decided that it would be a good idea to own a lawn sprinkler business, neglecting the fact that people in awful jobs say, at least we're not digging ditches.
And suddenly there I am.
So there I am,
digging ditches
in the mud like a moron. But I did that because I was traveling at work, and work was unstable and in the technology industry. And I saw it as an opportunity to be able to be home with my kids and help raise my kids when they were younger. And financially, it was a 100% disaster. I made more mistakes than I could count. And my marriage survived it. You talk about marriage being easy. I think it's super easy for me. I don't think it's super easy on my wife at all. Right. But we got through all that, and the kids, they just knew, like they knew kind of where we were, and those boundaries you were talking about, they kind of knew where they were. And when they were super young, they didn't, and they had to learn, and then they would go to their friend's house and get lost for a couple of days. They'd be gone for a couple of days, and then they'd find
Everybody doesn't have a pony?
They'd find them, yeah. And they're like, that's the pony room. Like, well, we just have the one room. But anyway, no, so I get that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So how do you teach your kids grit? Like,
it's hard. And I don't know that I did a stellar job. I wouldn't tell you that I was an amazing parent. I would say that my kids knew that I was busting my ass, but that I don't think they'd say that. No, that dude was really good at it. We learned together along the way. Yeah. But grit wise, I think you make them do hard things. I think you make them do hard things, and you let them understand that they can do hard. They're capable of doing difficult things. Yeah. And you got to sit back and watch them and not jump in and help them sometimes, and that's super difficult. And then sometimes you do, and that balance is very tricky. I think it's easy for people outside your environment to judge that, and and I have to be very careful about not doing that, because I have friends that have kids that are a little younger than mine, and my kids are 27 and 22, and they're super self-sufficient. They do their own thing, and so I'm like, well, you should do this, and you should leave them alone. They're fine. But that's the thing. You got to make your kids do hard things. Yeah. And they'll surprise you. They'll surprise themselves. They can do it. Yeah. They can do hard things.
Well, and you feel so much better having done it, right?
Right.
It's like when you think back on your life, and it's like, what's the most satisfying thing I've done? It was really hard. That's what made it satisfying.
Oh yeah. And you have that ownership, that buy-in. I'm not addicted is aggressive. I don't think I'm gonna have to go to meetings or anything, but I'm a fan of the Chinese TikTok. I watch the TikToks, and I share them with my kids, and I saw one the other day, and it was a man that I didn't recognize, but apparently he has a lot of financial wealth, and he said, "True wealth is when your adult kids want to spend time with you." He said, that's true wealth.
That is so true.
And I was like, yeah, I want that.
Right.
Because my kids are super fun. They're amazing. They are so resourceful and they're just good people. And I'm super proud of that. In spite of me and Amy, I thought did a stellar job. I stumbled and bumbled along a little bit, and I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good, what you just shared, because I think how we define success is so important.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because if we think it's the house and the cars and the neighborhood and the keeping up with the Joneses and all of that stuff, it's like that's the hard part, especially when you're a young dad. Like you're getting your career going, and you're trying to get all that going, and then I've got a little responsibility here.
Yeah.
Right? And
I've got another good one that I tell my kids now, and I feel this with all my heart. I tell them, I'm so much more proud of who you are than what you do.
Yeah, that's great.
Because you always brag to your friends, oh, my kid, he's doing okay. He's making $1 billion and da-da-da.
Right.
But who they are is what I'm really proud of. You meet my kids, they're special. They're good people.
That's gold. Yeah, rim shot.
Yeah, let's go.
That's a good one.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. Pavlov.
Well, when you talked about doing hard things,
my wife now, we have a 5-year-old grandson that lives with us.
Yeah.
And she is constantly telling him, Tobias is do hard things.
Yes.
Right? Tobias is do hard things. So you can start this really young.
Yeah.
Actually, right? And it's an identity statement. It's like you decide what your carrying your family's last name means.
Right.
And you can instill that in your children.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you are defining it. And so Tobias's do hard things. Well, what does that mean to a 5-year-old? It means we need to take this medicine. I know you don't want to take it, but we do hard things, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Or I know you don't want to put the dishes away after dinner, but we do hard things, and this is what we do.
Right.
It's like everything that's not being done is a hard thing.
Right.
And we do them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If the countertop's eye level, putting the dishes up may be difficult.
Right.
Yeah. But it makes sense.
But you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Or you can at least bring it to the kitchen and give it to grandma.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's awesome. I love that.
And then you always can elevate that. Yeah. So that's, I think that's a really good way to teach grit at a young age.
Yeah.
Right. What about goals? Tell me, like you've definitely set goals in your life, and how do you do that?
So, I talk about horizons, like having different horizons. And I have goals for myself. Primarily mine is to try to keep my wife around. She's got options.
Keep her around.
She is awesome. And I don't want her to wake up one day and go, yeah, I don't think I can fix this one. I tried it for 30 years. I think he's flawed. So that requires a lot of effort. And I'm serious about that. I'm hypersensitive to that. And our, the empty nest thing, and as our lives change and all that. Professionally, my goal has always been to do things that are interesting. And that's led me to do a lot of very different things. Like I've sold technology, I've sold plastic, I've installed sprinkler systems, all these different, I was in the Army for a while, I've done all these different things. And that has not been the best financial plan for me, because I chase things that I think are interesting more than things that maybe are good for me financially. And like I got out of consulting because I was traveling every week and I had small kids and it just wasn't working. And Amy would have left me, and I
so back to rule one: don't do anything that makes my wife leave me.
Don't piss the wife off. But that being said, and so now, I'm doing interesting things, and I think I'm gonna find a way to make a little bit of money, and that'll give me more freedom. Money's all about freedom, and so I'm excited about that. And we've recently reconnected with our church, probably in the last couple of years, and we visited, I don't know how many churches, and I've got all kinds of stories about that. And they're all positive experiences, but they're all very different. And I feel good about having a church home. I think it's super important for me mentally. And the other goal for me is I just continue to collect smart people. The podcast is part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The men's groups that I go to are part of that. Our mutual friend Chris Spivey, he'll just ping me at 11. You want to go eat lunch at 11:15? Yeah, let's go. All those relationships are so important to me. And then for my kids, my goal for my kids is to try to stay out of their business. And I work hard at that. And my daughter called me the other day, and she has a boyfriend. They live together, Caleb. We love Caleb. He's awesome. Someday I'm hoping they'll get married, but we'll see what happens.
Come on, Caleb.
Let's get this thing moving. Anyway, we love Caleb. Caleb's super intelligent, and he will do anything in the world for my little girl. And I couldn't be happier about that. He's awesome. And Emily's awesome. And Emily called me, and she's like, yeah, Caleb really wants to buy this car. And it was an older BMW, whatever. And she's like, I just wanted to call you and see what you thought about that. And I said, oh, on paper, it's a terrible idea. I mean, it's a terrible idea. It's an older car. You guys don't have a ton of money and whatever. I said, I think you should absolutely do it. I was like, what's the worst thing that happened? You get a car, it doesn't work out, you sell it, you move on. I said, do it, live it, figure it out. You don't have to call me for that. Yeah, why not? I mean, you just immediately thought back to 3 cars that you've owned in your married life that you're like, probably wasn't my best one, right?
Right, yeah, oh yeah.
But that's part of the fun. And so for me, everything that I can do to not call my kids every day. You don't have time. You got 6. But see, I've only got the 2.
Yeah.
So I could do like a morning, afternoon thing every day. But to try to stay out of their business, because Amy and I have equipped them to be amazing. I want them to be amazing. And then I want to hear about it. I don't want to be isolated from them.
Yeah.
But for me, that's a big goal of mine, is just to try to stay out of their business, because I could fix a lot of stuff for them. Like I could get in there and show them how to do stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm awesome.
But you would weaken them.
Oh, yes. And I would piss them off.
Right.
I'd make them so mad. I'd be so mad.
So the
Yeah.
relationship's important.
Yeah.
Well, I heard you really kind of talked about goals. It's interesting because you lined them out and you started with your wife,
Oh, yeah.
right? And then you talked about work. Then you talked about the church. Then you talked about your kids.
Yeah.
And so I don't think necessarily you've planned it out in that order, but it's like, to me, that's that's almost a priority, the structure of things, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If mom's not happy, like no one's happy.
She deserves to be happy.
Right? I've got to make money.
Yeah.
Because that's my primary role in our relationship with my wife.
Right.
Right? Like she's
Oh, yeah.
working, I'm working, but
Oh, yeah.
I got to do my part. And then the church home, I think getting that in order, because that puts God at the top, not
Right.
me at the top. I'm not against her. We're together talking to him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Seeking him. And then our children,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And where they are in that life. Now, I know you just kind of set them in that order, but it was interesting that you thought through, because I believe that is the order, right?
Yeah.
We're to put God first. But as men, let's be honest. The way I was, without a woman,
Oh, my God.
that's all I thought about.
Yeah.
Where am I going to get a woman?
Yeah. Yeah.
I should put God first, but I was putting, where am I going to find a woman first?
Yeah.
Right.
Just not your whole life.
Right.
Just from about 12. I told my kid, I was like, it's funny because dating is so screwed up. Like they've messed it up. They've screwed it up. I don't think they can fix it. But I told my kid, every decision that I've made from the time I was about 12 involved a girl. Every one.
Yeah.
Including standing in front of the door at the convenience store going, do I want a Dr. Pepper or a Coke? Somehow in my head, girls will like me more if I have Dr. Pepper.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
well, and they know how to advertise to us too.
But you know what I mean?
Have a Coke
And
and a
so
smile.
For him, it wasn't like that. Like they don't chase each other like they used to. It's a very odd, and we can get on that for 2 hours, the social media and the chaos and all that. But, But yeah, it requires some effort. You gotta get in there and roll your sleeves up.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna kind of land this plane here.
Love
So we talked about a lot of stuff here. We talked a lot about Eagle Scouts and how important that is. We talked about your family. We talked about God, grit, and goals. I want to come back as we kind of wrap this up. We talked a lot about the importance of having godly relationships in men. You talked about relationships with other men, but I think unspoken in what you were really talking about was godly relationships with men.
100%.
How would you? Because I know you're a guy. You're in sales. You get along with everybody. You appear to.
Yeah.
Right? How do you differentiate a godly relationship versus a business relationship or some other relationship?
So, I'm for all that I am. I try to be very self-aware. I know that I'm a lot. Like I know who I am. I come on pretty strong. There are people in this world that don't care for me at all, and that's certainly understandable. I usually, when I talk to a man on the phone and we're getting off the phone, I refer to them as brother. And it's a habit that I got into years ago, and my wife gives me a hard time about it. To me, that's a God thing. So to me, that's always reminded me that is my brother in Christ, in God.
Yeah.
And so even at work, like I call a guy and he needs a quote for a firewall and I'm like, hey, thanks, brother. I'll get this right out. For them, it has no significance. But for me, it's always reminding me that it's because I'm simple. I'm simple. I need that. And so when you talk about those relationships, I have relationships with people that don't have a Christ focus at all, but there's always a little something, right?
Yep.
You're the same way.
Yeah.
There's always a little something, right?
Right.
And so I just have to continuously remind myself that, hey, you need to touch that. You need to, there's a little something. I've got a friend that believes with all his heart that he's agnostic. Like, you're not agnostic. You just don't like the beard and the robes and all that. But you're not agnostic because you're intelligent enough to see the world around you and realize that there's evidence of something everywhere.
Right.
So don't be if you don't like Jesus, if that's not your thing, fine. But don't tell me that this all just randomly happened.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Intelligent design.
Yeah.
All right. How can people find your podcast? How do they get involved with Scouts? How does any of that happen?
All right. So the podcast is the Eagle Scout Show. You can go to theeaglescoutshow.com. And if you know an Eagle Scout, or if you are an Eagle Scout and you're interested in being on the Eagle Scout Show, there's a form on the webpage to fill out. I've had some people fill it out recently. They're amazing guests. Everybody's got a story, and I want to hear yours. I will publish next week the 20th episode, which is remarkable. The statistics say that your 21st episode puts you in the top 1% of all podcasters.
Wow.
21. So you can find it at everywhere you do podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, all that. And the guests are amazing. I'm average or above average. I think I'm above average, but the guests are insane. It's super fun. To get involved in scouting, just do it like you do everything else in your life. Google it up. Look for a local troop. Usually they're attached to, they're aligned with schools.
Okay.
And you can find that more in the elementary level. They're aligned with schools. But you can Google scouting near you. And I'll tell you this, another semi-controversial topic that shouldn't be controversial is girls in scouting. Why would you have the greatest leadership program on the planet for youth and exclude girls? Doesn't make sense. And the way it's structured, people that are against it don't understand how it's structured. Girls have their own troops. It's not co-ed.
Okay.
And so it's spectacular. And a lot of the young women that I've met that are in scouting are doing it better than anybody else. So don't let that stop you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for putting up with me. This is awesome. What time tomorrow, same time?
Yeah.
Or how's that work?
Thank you guys for listening in, and just go knowing God is good. Jesus has forgiven me. I'm loved, and everything is possible.
Amen to that.
All right.